to Bear Lifestyle, the podcast where we talk about taboo topics to make them normal and acceptable. I'm your host, Simona Spark, and I'm so happy that you are here. We are about to get naked by stripping away insecurities, judgments, and all kinds of limitations to reveal the essence of who we really are, Bear. Bold, authentic, radical, express. Let's go. Let's start with celebration. Nothing changed since three seasons ago when you visit us last. Yeah, so I'm celebrating you, my friend, and I'm celebrating myself and everyone who listens and watches.
Yes. Cheers to both of us, to all of us. As a collective, growing and striving.
Yes, ma'am. A very short introduction. I will put in the show notes links to Kenni's website and her Instagram so you could see her work and the things that she brings into the world. But for those of you that just landed here for the first time, first of all, she's my dearest friend. And second, she's just a powerful coach, mentor, leader that is helping women, or anybody for that matter, from all kind of walks of life, into truly getting into their authenticity, regardless if that is just for themselves, by themselves, into their marriages or into their business. So it goes layers and layers and it covers everything, but this is Kenni into like nutshell. And please open the show's notes and go follow her.
I love the nutshell. Thank you so much. I always love our conversations, and I forget sometimes how easy it is in one conversation for us to talk about so many different layers and what it is to be a woman in today's world and to thrive and to heal and to forgive and to learn and to grow and to develop. And it's just, I think, so vital for us coming back to this place of, am I honoring myself? Am I honoring my soul? Whatever the goal is out there, right? Like whatever the goal is, like we're writing books or we're speaking or we're teaching or we're doing our life's work. But at the end of the day, it all comes back down to that place. And like you said, even if it's in our partnerships or marriages or businesses, like, am I allowing myself to be who I am, who I was born to be, and who I decide I'm becoming?
Yes. So good. 2 minutes ago, for everyone to know, before we hit the publish button, the recording button, we were like, what was the piece that we want to record it for this specific thing? Because we have a conversation, and always our conversations are so inspiring and so like, substantial. And like, oh, this is good for the podcast. And we both like, we don't have it. So that's how we show up. Oh, and I have gum in my mouth, so let's put that away. So we decided that we're just gonna hit the record button and have a conversation as we usually do. And then if you listen to this, that means that we decided to keep it. So here we go.
Here we are.
One piece that come to me while we are here struggling to remember, like, what was that juicy part that we want to really open it, was that, all of us, but I want to say especially women, because we are talking about healing the relationship with men and how to welcome the men in our life and how to trust them again and how to allow them to express their own masculinity, how to feel safe with them, and so many other things. And I want to really understand that, of course, we are fearing the man, and of course, we are hating the man, and of course, we are having all this messed up relationship with men because we've been hurt by men. And what I like to really go deep in this work with my clients is to say, are you still healing that part, or are you hiding behind that part? Because I know I done that. And I did not like it when I discovered that. I'm like, oh shit, I'm actually hiding behind the fact that, oh, the men abused me and raped me and did these things to me. And it's like, But girl, there is a way out, there is a way to heal. And
Mhm.
how long you're gonna still hide behind what happened to you?
It's such a good point, and I think it's such a valid question because that is a hard this is one of those places where, we talk in the personal development, self-development world, we talk about, are you in victimhood? Burn your victimhood panties. Let's get out of victimhood, which is true. We don't want to park there. We don't want to live there. We don't want to build a house in victimhood, right? However, we need to also make space for we've actually been victims in this situation or that situation, and especially in this conversation about healing this relationship with the patriarchy and what is toxic masculinity and what is toxic femininity and how much is toxic femininity holding up and perpetuating toxic masculinity. Like, let's look at our roles here, let's look at our responsibility, and making that space to say, hold on a minute, there was a point in time where I was a victim of a crime. That's
Mhm,
not that's not bad to own. That doesn't make me weak or wrong or bad. That actually makes me the innocent party of a crime, of a
mhm,
severe violation or minor violation, whatever it was. And so I think that it's okay to notice in this scenario, I was the victim. I'm not going to build a house in victimhood, but I was the victim.
yeah.
And how do I heal from this? And one of the things that I've learned in my own life, and I think you've had a similar experience, the most healing that I have received has actually been through relationships with kind, loving, solid, trusting men who respect women.
100%. If we women will pause and step back for a minute and quick complaining, I mean, there's those groups, I keep mentioning those groups like women supporting women and empowering women through divorce, through breakup, through whatever. And it's great and it's fantastic until the point when they just start bitching about the men. And then
Mhm.
it's like, this is not empowering. Now it's like you could call your group women who hate men, right? But are all the parts, as you say, like, yes, I was a victim and I'm not going to apologize for it. There is no shame around it. And now I'm this person. So I'm not going to use that to justify whatever shit happened in my life. But I do believe, and I see it with myself and others, when we make that decision of, I'm opening myself up to meet good men, we actually meet good men.
Yes.
And we actually get to learn and heal together.
Mhm.
And I know that you say the toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, and I love that. But I even want to take a big step back and it's like, can I heal my toxic masculinity and femininity between myself first?
Mhm. I think a better word would be wounded. I
Mm,
think
yeah,
wounded masculinity and wounded femininity.
yeah. Thank you. Because
That
toxic
sounded
is so
Yeah,
just,
let's take toxic out of it, right, yes,
yeah.
because even that, it's like, because it's just wounds. It's just these
It's not
gaping wounds.
toxic. They've been hurt. So let's
Yeah,
just put it as it is. I love that. Yes,
and
yes.
unprocessed wounds can turn into poison. They can kill us, and so we hurt ourselves with these unprocessed wounds, and I'm not here to negate the true facts around. Is it a true fact that the majority of rapists are men statistically? Yes. Is it a true fact that a woman needs to be more on guard if she is walking dark alleyways all by herself, and that a lot of times the perpetrator will be a male that is lurking? Sure. Like, I'm not here to argue the reality of what kind of trauma wounded and detached and disconnected humans create in this world. Not here to remove that. It's like, can we acknowledge that that's true and acknowledge that there's an abundance of men who cherish women and who really do crave to provide and make a woman's way easier. Like to me, I think about the women or the groups you were talking about where they get really upset if a man opens a door for a woman. And it's like, or I'll give you an example with my husband. My husband highly respects women. It is very hard for him to not say yes, ma'am, to a
Mhm.
woman. It is so challenging for him. It is so rooted in his, like, he's the man who he's gonna walk on the outside of the street, and I'm gonna be on the inside of the street. He's gonna switch me places just automatically. It's this provision and protection because he is larger than me and he wants me to be safe. And
Mm.
he doesn't think I'm incapable. He thinks I'm the strongest, most capable person on the planet. That song, "You Don't Own Me," it's a cover, it's a redo. What do you call a redo? I lost the word, but
Thank
it's
God. I take it.
we'll just call it a redo, remake, whatever. It's Grace and what is his name? The rapper, G-Eazy. And it's so good. And she's singing, don't tell me what to do, don't da 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 da. Basically, don't just have me be arm candy and also I can buy all my own shit. She's just
Yeah.
very like in her woman. But I love this song because this man inside in here, he's recognizing and respecting like her strength and her power for receiving and for creating for herself because women get to do that if they so choose. And that song came on one day, we're dry, we're in the car, and he was like, "Oh, that's my wife." So he sees me
Yeah.
as this strong, powerful, independent woman who will fuck someone up if she needs to. Like she's gonna
Right.
fight. She's a fighter. And so it somehow though, along the way, we got on this path where we're like, if you try to support me, that means you think I'm not strong enough. Or I don't know exactly. I think it's an evolutionary thing that happened. It's like, let me fight back because I'm Miss Independent. And it's fabulous to be Miss Independent. There's just an and there. We can be Miss Independent and fully supported, upheld, and the way made easier by the masculine if we choose to be in that energetic in that relationship, whether it's with a male or a female, like
Love
sex.
it.
No, it doesn't matter the sex.
You know what? I thank you for sharing that first with your wonderful husband. Okay, man. Well, women don't like me since I started this like deep work just around sexuality and intimacy and sex and pleasure. I get some negative things for women, and that's okay. Because I'm calling in the strong women. They are not triggered. They are like, okay, let me pause here for a minute and see how can I do this differently, right? And here's what I want to say to that. When you ask, somewhere we feel like whatever the man is taking away from us, yes, that's a belief because that's what we've been taught, the man is taking away from us. But a matter of safety that this man is born to provide. They're born to create the safety and to be the provider from ever and ever, right? We fuck them up.
Mhm.
Like, can we take the responsibility? We fuck them up when they want to open the door, and it's a silly example. It's like, I got it. And
Mhm.
now we have this man walking around and treating us as we are fragile because they don't want to offend us or
Mhm.
our independence or our feminism or whatever the shit, right? I remember my friend Kelly, girl, if you listen to this, she was like, I will sit by that door until a man show up to open for me. And I was like, girl, and it got me thinking of it. And I'm like, what's the energy of that?
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
I'm giving the men the opportunity to be themselves.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
they do that, to be appreciative and just loving and be thankful and ensure them that doesn't jeopardize my worth or my abilities or my capabilities. And he's just filling his role.
Mhm. It makes me think of dancing.
Mm.
I always go back to dancing when we're looking at masculine and feminine, the energetics, or how this could show up in a partnership or relationship. And it's like in a dance, if you're taking ballroom lessons or anything like that, he is the frame and she is the flow.
Yeah, I present it like he's the frame, she's the picture. So it's like
Oh yeah, I love that.
this
Yeah,
this
he is the
is
flow.
the beauty, the art, the whatever, but it's like it requires the right frame for
So
the
to
art.
me, when I think of just him opening a door and her walking through, it's just another example of he's just clearing a path for her to be in flow, for her to move. I
Right.
actually funny, this is so funny that this is connected, and I just heard this last night. So, we've talked about sleep a few times,
Uh-huh.
and I struggle with sleep. My brain gets really active, and that could lead me to not the best habits, right? I could be like, I want to be distracted. So let me just watch a show until 1 o'clock in the morning. And so recently I was like, I'm not doing that. I need something else. And so I started, going to bed earlier. So what I've been doing is I found on Spotify, I found this I can't remember what it's called, but it's bedtime stories. It's bedtime stories. It's like a sleepy, this
Oh, I heard
woman.
about those.
Yeah, it's called The Sleepy Bookshelf, the one I'm listening to. And so every night I do all my things, I put on my headphones, I lay down and I just cozy up and it's this woman with this really calm voice. And right now she's reading Pride and Prejudice to me. And literally last night, the part she had read is the part, and it's in the movies. If those of you listening have not read Pride and Prejudice, this is definitely in all the movie renditions of it. But where Miss Bingley asked Miss Elizabeth Bennet to turn about the room with her, and Darcy's kind of teasing how he's like, there's only one of two reasons why you would, walk about the room this way. And if I get up and join you, because she teased him and was like, are you familiar with this story? This
Yes,
piece
yeah, yeah.
where
Mhm.
she teases him and she's like, oh, come join us. And he's like, no, because I mean, this is not how he says it, but no, that ruined the whole reason you're doing it. And so when she presses further, he's like, either you're going to share a secret in confidence that you don't want to share with the room, or you're aware that the female figure or the female presence is, I can't remember how he says it. It's very gentlemanly, but it's like at its most advantageous in motion, like when you're walking.
Mm,
And
mm.
it's such an interesting thing because we can like deduce this whole concept all the way down to just somebody's clearing a path so that we get to just move through and be
Right.
gracious and thankful for that and appreciate that gesture, that, moment. And I always make sure when a stranger opens the door for me that I turn and give like real gratitude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and
We
look
need to appreciate the behavior, reinforce the behavior, right?
Mhm.
Because I mean, the other way, it's valid too, right? Like we are sitting here, all cute ladies and girly, and it's like, I just want to be beautiful. I just want to get compliments. I just want to, to be liked, to tell me that I'm sexy and I'm beautiful and whatever. I'm like, okay, great. He does it. How do you respond to that? How do you respond to that? Are you actually really receive it, or are you fighting back like, oh, whatever, you know? And then you go and you bitch with your girlfriend like, this guy did this and did this, that. Right? I went to this party. So listen to this. I went to this party, secret single party, whatever the shit, downtown LA. So Halloween, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go, let's do it. And we are in a line at the bathroom, right? And there's two girls behind me. And I say girls because they're probably not 21 and they have beers in their hands, right? But one of them was like particularly tall, like I have to like really look at that. And she says, hey, are you here alone? I'm like, yeah, I'm alone. It's a single party. you know? And she goes, well, as you could see, I'm very tall. So if any asshole come to you and makes you uncomfortable, just raise your hand and I got you. And it was a moment there, right? I'm like, okay, first of all, thanks, sister, right? But I couldn't pass the fact that she came to a single party and immediately put all the men into assholes box, and they gonna offend us. Like, she was ready for that.
Yes.
And it's just, I wonder how many times we do that. We women, right? Do
Yes,
that.
we women, like, how often do we do that? And some of it is so automatic, it's so automatic. And
Yeah.
there's something so beautiful. Like, it'd be so different if she said, "Oh, I noticed you're alone. Just FYI, I'm a sister looking out for other sisters all of the time. So if you need anything, don't hesitate to come grab me or to say something." You know what I mean? Like, and because yes, let's have women supporting women. Yes, let's look out for one another. Let's be mindful of each other all the time. And I'm like that in a I don't go out at night very often, but I'm very protective of women. I'm just very, very vigilant.
I'm here to,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah, yes. I forgot about that. Yes, I have a radar, and if I'm with another woman especially, I am paying attention to our environment and the surroundings. And I don't want to change that about myself. It's not that I'm looking for trouble. I'm just aware,
yeah,
you
you
know.
always, yeah.
I'm just aware. And so I think it could be so beautiful. I love us being that for each other. Let's be aware of our environments and let's be aware of each other and always be willing to help out a stranger, a sister, just human that needs our help.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, that predisposition, that thing, whether it's partially learned through her own lived experience or our own, I should say, we as women, our own lived experience. Most of us have had experiences that have taught us to fear men.
Yeah.
And then there's the societal, and there's how hard women have had to work to just fight to have some rights that are the same, because we have to be honest about that. We've barely been able to vote for over 100 years, or barely over 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's only in recent history that we were able to even have credit cards in our names. And if we wanted to get our tubes tied, we had to have our husband's permission. And there are still places like that. So I want to be like factual.
Right.
And also, I know a lot of men who are fighting for women to have the same rights too.
True. And in that fight, and like, we come back to, you mentioned earlier about the, I'm missing my turn here. It's gonna come back to me. In that fight, we could, at least for a second, have a little bit of compassion and understanding, patriarchy, that in all that mess, man was hurt as well.
Oh, yes.
Because like, I can't even imagine the pressure, like
Oh,
the pressure, like I have to be the one that do this, I'm in charge with that. I'm like, so much pressure. So they were denied their femininity. They were denied their connection with their own emotion. You don't get to be emotional. You don't get to
boys
feel.
don't cry.
You don't, yeah, I mean, like, it's basic as just like crying, right? But now we are here. We went through all that shit. And I like that you say that we have all this trauma through our own experience or passed to us. I mean, since we were a little girl, like what we are hearing, like, I don't care where you're born and where you're in the world. I do dare to generalize and say, we all heard, like, sex is not good. It's gonna hurt you. You're gonna get pregnant. You cannot have babies. It's painful. It's shameful. It's, from your parents, from your teacher, from the church, from the whatever. Like, we grow up with that. We grow up traumatized around sex and intimacy, fear it, and then we grow up, and then we start thinking with our own brains at some point, and we hear like, oh, sex get to be pleasurable. Like, how is that? But then we went through shit. We've been abused, we've been raped, and now we are like, okay, so I see that this is possible, but my body won't let me go there. So all these layers, that's why I'm rambling here, but I want to get back to is like the work, the inner work is how can I make the peace between my wounded femininity and my wounded masculinity? And also, I'm happy to see there are more and more spaces for men and, you know, manhood and groups when they get to support each other and get back to their own home. Like it's okay to be in touch with my femininity. And then if we are lucky enough to meet each other, to actually continue that work.
Yes. And I think it's so interesting the different ways we find each other or meet each other there. So, for example, I know in my relationship, the way that I will go try to find a retreat and whisk myself off for a few days and go retreat with other women, my husband's not looking for a retreat, and he's not doing that per se, but he'll go off into the wilderness, and he goes off into nature or he goes and hangs out, and he does these other things. And it's so interesting because I don't think it doesn't look this way or that. I think it's how we connect. And I think nature can be a really big part of that. Whereas his happy place is in in the woods, mine is in the ocean or by a river. Like, and again, it comes back to flow, and he wants to be up in a tree somewhere, structure. Like, so it's such an interesting thing because if you were to ask my husband, if I were to go get him right now and say, "Hey, come answer this question," and if we were to say, "Do you consider yourself an alpha male?" No. He'd say no. Why? Why would he say no? Because in his brain, now this is where it comes back to your point, where that wounded masculinity, where even they are wounded by even calling myself an alpha male is bad because how he sees an alpha male is like, and I don't want to speak to right now, but how he would have labeled this, let's say 2 years ago, would probably be, oh, that's somebody who's cocky. They have know-it-all-itis. They think they're always right. They're like, let me just do it, even though they don't know what they're doing, because that's been his experience with the wounded masculinity. Like, they'd rather those people that he's been around, like, he's like, if there's an argument, he's like, okay, cool, you're right. Like, he's just like, whatever. And the
Yeah.
other person, though, is like, they'd rather lose
See,
the relationship than be.
I'm so glad you say that because most people around that, when he will say you're right, they will automatically label him, oh, he's not a alpha man, he's a pussy, or whatever the shit, right? So, and that's it though. That's exactly it. It gets to be very simple, but profound, right? Like, can we let go of the labels and the sexual labels and just like go in and focus on the expression?
You know what I think?
Express yourself, and nobody else will do it like you. What is the spaces where you feel at home and there is no rules? Do you need to climb a tree? Go climb the fucking tree. Come home happy. You don't have to go to a retreat, you know?
Yeah, it looks different. And I do think, though, I do think that just like women need places, like safe, healing, growing places with other women, I think men could use that too. Or just, and we, and I am speaking about the men that are going out of the woods and they're doing ice baths and they're having a place of brotherhood where they can break down because they all get it. We weren't allowed to break down, or it was bad, or it was wrong, or all this pressure. They allow themselves to break under the pressure of being the provider or being the strong one or protecting or whatever, and in a place where other people like them get it, and so, and I think that's what these communities and these conversations that we have are creating. It's like, can I just have conversations with people who kind of get where I'm coming from or what I'm thinking about? And it's like, you and I can have this conversation, but if you and I were to have this conversation in certain settings, we would be absolutely attacked. And
Right,
people would be going, what, it's like supposed to, you want to go back to the 1950s? Like, no, absolutely not. That's not what I want.
right,
Um,
right.
I am curious though, something popped up while you were talking about no rules. And
Mhm.
it made me think of your TED Talk,
Okay.
and it made me think of this notion. what if this, because like I think we could all agree that the world has been sort of flipped upside down when it comes to masculinity, femininity, gender, sex, sexuality. What is all this shit? Everybody's doing all this stuff. So there's people fighting against it, going, that's not right, that's backwards. And there's people like, I just need to be who I am. And there's all this. I wonder if this is a part of that every now and then. A natural disaster to come in and just destroy everything so that it can rebuild. So to me, I'm like, I wonder if all this topsy-turvy stuff people are feeling their ways through is a massive shift to help us heal this within ourselves and within society so that we can like that, like when the like let the dust settle so that we can just love each other through it, walk with each other through it, but go, what do we need? Let's peel back these layers and look at the wounds so that we can heal this shit within ourselves and within our society so that we can work together, grow and evolve together with a little more peace.
Right, right. No, I love that. And I feel it. And it's funny that you mentioned my TED talk, because that's exactly what person that I talked 2 days ago says, like, oh, he's like, I get what you do in this space. It's like, I watch your TED talk, like you're really advocating for everybody's unicity and authenticity. I'm like, yeah, why can we not bring that into sex? Why can we not bring that into intimacy? Like, can we just let go? So it was this guy, a date, right? And I asked him, and I say, did you ever give a blowjob? And he said, I'm not gay. I'm like, but didn't answer my question. I didn't ask you if you're gay or not. I asked you if you give a blowjob, right? So, so that was a whole conversation. And then the other day with this guy, I asked him the same question, and he says, no, I didn't. And he just paused like that. And I'm like, what's up? And he says, I should totally do that. I should totally do that. I'm like, ooh, are you interested? Like, what's going on? Right. And he says, no, you're making a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
What do I know about that? Nothing. I have no idea what you guys are doing when you're down there, like what you go through. And it was, and I was like, you could only imagine, like completely in for this conversation, because
Yeah.
this was a man that is like, he's not gay, but he let go of all the labels or sexual desires or whatever, and is like, okay, this is one way to have sex, another part of the body that I'm receiving, that I'm having a lot of expectation and judgment around it, but I know shit about it because I never experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I mean, let it go of judgment, but not so much. I'm like, this is an evolved human right here.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that immediately says, I'm not gay, is like, we just like, we can't even have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what's your take on that, miss? I don't know how we get here, but we get to the blowjob.
So
So
interesting. Well, I see your point of somebody going, "Oh, what an interesting question," and not feeling the automatic need to be like defend themselves, right? Like, so I see what you mean by like, "Oh, this is an evolved person. I can have a conversation." It doesn't mean he wants to do that. It doesn't mean he's ever going to,
I think that's
but
gonna do it. Exactly.
because
Exactly.
but it is interesting because it's like from the place that, and he, obviously if y'all haven't had an existing relationship, it's hard for somebody to know like why you're asking the question, where you're coming from. Like I know who you are. So I know that the question comes with no expectations and no judgment attached to it, but that's not most conversations,
Right.
right? A lot of times people are asking questions so that they specifically can judge or figure you out or label you, right? Even on dates.
Yeah.
Even on dates. So I can completely understand the defensiveness of just like I'm not gay. But as you were sharing, I was like, yeah, but if he has no desire to do so, then that's not even a question. Like definitely should never force himself to do something that he has no desire to do. So it makes me go, how would I want that question answered? Like, what is the middle ground? Is it no, I have no desire to do that? That's just not a turn on for me. Like like where is that line? It actually reminds me a little of Jane the Virgin. Did you watch that show, Jane the Virgin?
Yes. Yes, I
Where
did.
where she realizes that her boyfriend is bisexual, and she's like confused, and she's like, wait, is he your type or is he like, she's like, I don't know. She was trying to figure out how to do it. And and then it opened the doors of, wait, who am I supposed to be worried about you cheating on me with? And he's like, well, when I'm with one person, I'm with one person. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter who I'm attracted to or not attracted to. If I'm committed to you, it's you and I.
Yeah.
And
And
but
it
it's
doesn't matter what my attractions are or my fantasies or whatever. And but that's it though, like for me, well, of course I'm looking at the work, like, okay, this is the work that I'm doing, right? But it's also the work that I've been doing with myself, right? Like, as I call myself, the guinea pig of all those things. uh
yeah.
I do though, because I finally got into a space. It's like I don't believe in fantasies anymore. Like, it's a separate conversation. I'm like, I have this curiosity. I'm gonna go and create that space and put myself through it. Before I used to fantasize, and then you get all those feelings, and it's like all those things, and like, okay, and that's how it feels like and how it looks like, but was still a fantasy. And now I'm like, I don't want to fulfill the fantasies. I want to create them. And then I could tell you if I actually enjoy it or not when I'm in it. Because until then, I'm just in my head and imagining things, right? So, where was I going with that? Safety. Like, are you feeling safe with a partner or partners, whatever the setting is, to ask the questions, to ask the provocative question, the unexpected question, and of course, as you say, like, with no agenda, like, I really want to know. That's all it is, and holding a space for whatever answer. To be honest, probably not holding a space for defensiveness and attack. That is a space that I'm not holding. Like, we are in a conversation. I'm investing a lot of trust in you, that you know who you are, and we could have a conversation about this topic while we are halfway naked, right? Like, we are already, I think, in a safe space that we get there. There is some kind of level of trust already built that you get there. So there is the winded masculinity, femininity that we have, that we are resonating with the other person too. Because for me, as a guinea pig of the work, when this person is like that, or if I'm having a bad date, which is very rare lately, I'm always looking in, like, what part of me it's so active that this asshole is at my table.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how far we take that as the clients of the world. Like, we always look in, and we always look in, and at some point to say, you know what, I'm good. He's just an asshole, and that's fine. We are not a match.
I do wonder if in the work and in the process of the healing, if we like made a decision to, instead of looking at them or labeling like, oh, this is an asshole or this guy's a dick or this whatever, because it's still like I wonder if we could hold enough respect for this thing that is happening, this time that we were born into, and this stuff that we're witnessing on the planet, just for lack of better, that rocking of the boat. I wonder if we could look at them just with full compassion of, and like almost like let's say you're on a date, you're sitting across the table, and that's the thought going through your head. Or if I'm in a situation with someone and they're rude or they're raising their voice or they're, like whatever. If I could, I almost want to be like, could we in our mind's eye shrink them down into the little boy and just see the wounded masculine, like just see the wounds. And like, it's not my job to nurture that wound. It's not my job to mother. It's not my job to teach. It's not my job to anything. What my job is to take care of myself and go, this is not for me, and create the boundary and walk away, you
100.
know?
Like,
Um,
you call me on that exactly. And I do say it with, it sounds judgmental, but I do say it with all my love when I say they're just scared little boys.
Mhm.
And I no longer want to raise them. It's not my job. So
Yes, I
I
love that.
like, you're there where you are, and
Mhm.
I'm literally walking away.
Mhm. Because the scare feeling and love and whatever, but when they become adults, that's their responsibility to manage. It's not our responsibility to manage. And it's challenging. It's really challenging because one of those people that, I've talked with you about this a bit. One of those people that was always like the quintessential asshole or super douche or whatever whatever you want to call them. There was this friendship that I've had with somebody for a long, long time. And there was a point where he said, how can you be friends with me?
Mm,
Because he wasn't a good friend or a kind person. He had kindness in him, but there was no there weren't a lot of benefits for me to stay in relationship. And I said, well, because you're an asshole. You treat people poorly. And if you continue this path, you're going to end up all alone. And I don't want you to be all alone.
mm,
So, and I made that declaration. We were probably, I don't know, 21 or 22. I was very young. I was very young. And I have watched on the sidelines without mothering or trying to step in to heal or being like, I'm gonna now earlier in my lifespan, I did try to direct or because I was afraid for him. I
right.
was afraid of who he would become, what he might do, how he might harm other people and harm himself. And and it's just such an interesting dynamic to look at that and go, I've been able to love you unconditionally, but that doesn't mean I will expose myself to the damage you cause. And it's an interesting thing to care about someone and you see that and you can still love the scared little boy, but without participating and causing yourself harm or taking on the responsibility of, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to make it better. Or even worse, for those of us with our own wounded feminine and our abandonment issues and our what other people like to coin, daddy issues, which is really just father
Let's leave it
wounds, father wounds, but we play those out a lot of times. We play them on repeat. And as we go through that and we realize when we go into that mothering energy and we try to fix it or even worse, hope and pray that we can make ourselves enough for them to change.
right.
Now it's too I mean, the level of wounding that we are playing in and repeating and, like, sort of the movie we're acting out over and over and over, it's, like, just waiting for us to go, "Hold on a second. I'm now just repeating this cycle of abandonment and rejection and not enoughness and pain and wounds, and this is why when I go out on a date or when I'm in a relationship, I suddenly wake up and realize I'm being treated really poorly, or I've tolerated this behavior, or I've tolerated, whatever it is, right? We can have a laundry list of things. And what am I doing? Because we tend to go, he did this, he's the asshole, he's the asshole. And I think where you were coming to earlier is what you said, what is in me that still needs to heal that I've attracted this person to be sitting across from me?
Right, right. That's why I'm coming back to, I just texted with somebody this morning that was like, hey, let's jump on a call. I might need to work with you, and is this, and I just want to get a hold of this already. ASAP, he said, right? And I said, okay, yeah, okay, let's start the process. And I said, but one thing, there is no such a thing ASAP. Because people have like, oh, I find a coach and a mentor or whatever. I know what's the problem. We're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna fix it. I'm gonna be all well. You won't. This is work. When I published my book, what's 3 years now, 2.5 years, of course I was really proud, like, okay, here's my story, all the things, I'm holding it, I own it, there is no shame attached to it. I was really proud. You were there through the process, you in my book. um and I do believe like this is it, like I done it, right? Just to discover that, girl, you have work to do.
Mm,
It's all that trauma and what happened and how I end up there and all the suffering and understanding that that was underneath of everything and running my whole goddamn life was just one tiny piece. The
mm.
most
Surface.
the most painful, but so small. And there's like, wait a minute, it's like this, the like healing the relationship with men, like, oh, I'm fucked now. Now what? Right? So I always try to bring people into, even if it's a marriage, and I work with married couples, is like we are projecting our own wounded. We have so much hurt, and our partner has so much hurt that those are like activated, and we are like try to heal while sitting in a conversation and let the hurting pieces lead.
Mhm.
Impossible task. So I got to the point like I was most likely won't take clients as couple unless I take them separately.
Yeah, it's
Just to
separate.
get them into like you need to go in you forget about your partner, you, and then of course your partner to do the same thing, and now we could have a
Yeah.
build, as you say, you know, like a rebuild piece by piece.
Yeah, I always like to say it's like we all come into relationships with all this luggage, and it's up to us to decide, are we gonna throw it at each other's faces and beat each other to a pulp with the luggage, or are we gonna sit it down, open it up, and unpack the shit?
Yeah.
Like, what are we, what are we doing here? What are we gonna choose to do? And how can we do this together? And it's not all at once, it's like, oh, this is what's happening and what's present now. And can we heal this at this level? And I think that what's really important to note and to say is that all of our relationships have the ability to teach us more about ourselves, more about being in relationship. And so when we have attracted, you know, layers and layers of just bullshit, it's that's when it's time to go, "Ooh, what in me is calling my attention, either ready to heal, ready to shift, ready to change, ready to grow? What in me is attracting this dynamic, especially if it's a pattern? What in me is attracting, let's say it's guys that just ghost me. What in me is attracting, like, what am I expecting? What am I,
Right.
and so it's that's, I think, where we come back to that taking responsibility. I saw a really funny meme once, and it was like, I wish you could choose you know, your children's father. Yeah, and I was like, okay, we we
Well,
act like we have no responsibility sometimes. We go through and that's such a nice role to play. It's so nice to go through the world and go, I don't know why all this shit's happening. I'm perfect. I'm the victim. Everybody just harms me and I'm wonderful. Are you kidding? Have you met me? I am. I check all the boxes. But normally that those relationships are coming in to shake us up and go, hey, psst, here's all the things that are ready to be healed.
here's all the things that you successfully ignore
Mhm.
and you
Yes.
successfully hide from. And I
Yeah.
congratulate you for finding all these amazing, sophisticated strategies to take your life. Honestly, like that's a conversation that I have with myself. And then it's like, but if you
Mm.
want something else, you need to look at those pieces or don't look at them. But I guarantee you, you're going to get the same thing over and over again.
Right.
And there is
Right.
no coach, no mentor, no program, no book that is going to shift that. It's just they won't in one conversation.
We got to be willing to shift it for ourselves, to take our own responsibility. Again, this isn't about fault. It's about responsibility. It's
Thank
my
you.
responsibility to heal. That doesn't mean I give excuses or let people off the hook when they've harmed me. It's my responsibility to heal. It's my responsibility to set and hold firm to my boundaries. It's my responsibility to say, this is what I will not accept, and this is what I will accept. It's my responsibility to go, oh, that's a bunch of red flags. That doesn't mean that person's bad. That means that's not my person.
Yeah, yeah. That means they have work to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's their decision if they do it or not. It's not for me to fix it. It's not for me to tell them you have to do it. It's just in a dating space. I learned this in a dating space, but I really apply it all over in my life. It's a simple, like, it's not a match.
Yeah, it's just not a match. It's not personal. It's just not a match.
And that I apply everywhere in my life. It's like,
Mm.
I don't want to waste another second and another gram of energy of judging or try to understand or convince, or like, I've done that most of my life. Um, and it just to say, it's not a match. Move on. There is,
It's not our place to presuppose that we know what's right or best for another person. It's our place to know what's right and best for us and to continue following that path of what's right and best for me. Here's what I think is so interesting. And I don't know if I don't want to tunnel vision this into saying this is a female thing, but I do notice this. We tend to, even if we know that that's not our person or that's not this or whatever, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but we do tend, even though we might know that's not our person, to want everyone to think we're their person, or we want to be desired by everyone. We want, even if we don't want them, we want to be wanted by them. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah.
Curious
And
about your experience with that.
I touched to that earlier when I said we just want to be like seen gorgeous and
Desire.
flattered and desire. And like, yeah, I want to feel desire. But guess what, girlfriend? The men have the same right too. And if you're really honest and you know how good that feel and how it's just boosting your confidence and how what a gift that is when somebody give it to you, you could also give that gift to your male companion, right? And to get to your question, like, even we don't like him, we still want to be liked by them.
Mm.
My opinion on that is like, that's a red flag. You have healing to do. My take on that is, I make a post the other day, the other week or so on Instagram, and I said, when you, because somebody asked me, like, how do you know when you're ready to just go date and have a good experience? I'm like, you're ready to go dating when you're no longer concerned about if they're gonna like you.
Mhm.
And your concern is like, am I gonna like them?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that is like, when I got into that space, like, I don't care if you like me or not. Yeah, it feels good to be liked and complimented. But I don't need that. I
Mhm.
don't need it because I know how amazing I am. I could see myself in the mirror, how gorgeous I am. Like, I don't need that. So
Mhm.
again, going back to what is it that you need to care for yourself, to attend to yourself, to love yourself, to advocate for yourself, to hold yourself, to not abandon yourself and put all the power into a man that you just met that you don't like, but you need him to like you.
Mhm.
Like that for me, it's a huge
Yeah.
leak of.
I'm definitely separating it from needing to be liked. I don't think it's the same thing, and I do think it's more biological. I think it's more of a biological disposition of, similar to how pheromones work. How some pheromones of this body work well with some pheromones of that body, and how even, like, birth control, like, halts women's pheromones, and that's why they accidentally marry the wrong man,
Mm.
because because birth control stops your natural ability to, like, smell the proper pheromones. It's very interesting when you, like, look that up.
Using your senses,
Mhm.
like unfiltered.
Mhm.
And it's just, I was just thinking of like, psychedelic sex, which is so much fun. And it's like, when do you do it and who do you do it with? Because you could end up into this la la land that is not real. It feels fantastic, but
Mhm.
you are with the wrong person because you're just high out of your mind, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know, Kenny. I'm going back because those are so many layers, but I'm going back to how well you know yourself and how well you could feel yourself inside of your own body to
Mm.
trust yourself so deeply and know yourself so well that you feel safe to whatever there is, birth controls or ecstasy or whatever that is just messing up your ability to smell, taste, and tune in,
Mhm.
and to say like I'm safe because I'm safe here,
Mhm.
and I know what happened.
Mhm.
Maybe that's not where you want to go with this conversation, but that's what
Well,
opened up for me, like how those unfiltered
mm,
perception.
absolutely, because a lot of times when we have, I mean, there's so many levels of the conversation we could go into when it comes to filters. Like when it comes to lights on or lights off, that's a filter.
Yeah, sobriety.
On, makeup off, sobriety, like these are all filters. Now, to your point though, I think it's okay to have filters in different places. It's just like you put a filter on a photo for a feel, not because you're trying to hide something, for a feel, for an experience. And when we're looking at this desire to be wanted, and I think it's both. I think everyone has the desire to be wanted, right? Like I think that's a predisposition. It's not necessarily all coming down to I need people to like me. It's like, but I love how you said it. It feels good to be liked.
Yeah,
It feels good when you walk into a room in your essence and you know you're turning heads,
yeah,
right? And if we look at this from a biological standpoint, it's nature also.
yeah.
It's like he wants to be strong and stand out from the pack because he wants to attract the mate, and she wants to draw the attention because then you're more likely to procreate, and then we can keep the planet going because more humans are born. We keep the species alive. Like it
Right.
boils down to
No, but it is though, and it's a very amazing kink actually to just tap into that primal desire, to
Mhm.
just say like, I'm the fucking man, I'm the woman, let's go. And it's very primal, and it's just letting loose, like how much healing as women, how much healing you need to do to allow yourself to go into that primal space and to feel safe with being with a man that is like, he's taking you, right? And you love it. It's not, you don't look at it as a predator, oh my God, it's going to hurt me. You allowed him to be in the same primal space with you.
Mhm.
So from there to where we are now with everything that happened since is, we just restore, we hide, we damage, we filter, we did whatever the shit we needed to do to survive the experiences, right? But
Yes.
again, for when we started this conversation, to say you get to stop that pattern, and everybody has the ability to heal and
Mhm.
to get into a space when you get to just soften a little bit of all those edges, and on guard, I'm here, nobody
Mhm.
could take me down, I kickboxed for 7 years, no
Mhm.
man could, I know, like I said that very long time. And I'm like, but I don't need to, I just get to be in who I was created to be, feminine and graceful, and moving with the intention to turn heads because I like it and I love it. And I trust the men around that they could hold it, and they're not predators. And they know how to receive that with grace and with respect, right? And then when that happen, now we walk together. When that don't happen, it is my responsibility to say no. I
Mhm.
can't blame on the asshole. I could
Mhm.
say, he's a scared little boy. I don't need to raise him. I'm going here.
Yes, I'm going in a different direction. And I think a part of this healing process is being willing to question what part of this is, we look at ourselves as though almost like I'm broken, I'm dysfunctional. We use like dysfunctional. We even joke about it. I put the fun in dysfunctional, which I get. Like that was my story for so, so long. And that's, I think, why I have the question sometimes of like, ooh, is this a pattern? I'm not dysfunctional. This is just like you were saying earlier. This is a savvy, smart strategy for me to get my needs met, or me to try to protect myself or avoid getting hurt, or whatever the strategy is for. Or for me to stay in the same role because I know this role so well,
Mhm.
you know? And also look at, okay, is this a pattern? Is this a pattern that I created from my environment? Could this be generational? Let's open that conversation to go, and let's look at ourselves as a part of nature. Let's look at how nature works. And some of the, because I think that there are women out there that might be listening to this, men too, who are like, am I conceited because I want everyone to want me? Am I this or this or that? And it's like, okay, hold on. This could just be a biological piece of you that just very naturally and organically enjoys being desired. That's not wrong or bad.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah,
it feels good.
absolutely. And you have the ability to work that piece and to find how to express it. So you're no
Mhm.
longer judging it, and you just like really, really, really
Yeah,
own it. So
own
that
it.
said, I just want to remind anyone again to open the show notes. First of all, follow Kenni. It's order. I've been called a dominatrix, so I'm just gonna might as well do that. But also the dungeons, both dungeons are open at this point, the Queen's Dungeon and the King's Dungeon. And those are the spaces, the first time I ever created spaces like this where I really want to take care of the how. Because we like in coaching for the past 5 years, that was like a no question. And now I'm like, let me address that to start with, like the how to
Mm,
get into the body, how to get in tune with my emotion, how to get in touch with my pleasure. What are the tools, the practices, the techniques in which I could apply, implement on my own. So not only I experience more pleasure, but also become a better lover and hold a space for my partner of partners. So that's what's happening in a dungeon. So I'm very excited about it. And I will admit a little bit nervous because again, is that piece, who am I to talk about this, right? So like, but I do want to talk about it. I do have a lot to say. There is a lot of research and study and experimenting and guinea pigging. So there you have it. If it's there for you, if this is for you, open the show notes, look at the details, and I will see you in a dungeons. So
in the dungeons of desire.
well, one thing, like we don't have the social media police there. So dicks are dicks and cocks are cocks, and penetration and masturbation, they're all out in the open. That didn't come out right, but we're gonna keep it to the dungeons. That's the space though. So let's see how we could wrap this up, because you and me, we could stay here all day.
I know it. I know it. Well, I'm excited for all of your clients coming into the dungeon with you and being willing to question and get curious and experience and experiment and be their own guinea pigs in their own world to go, what is my next level? What is my next layer? And in a space that's completely non-judgmental and safe, and a space where everything's on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you know what? Like even this podcast, when I started it, I started with, and it's still in a copy still this day, like addressing taboo topics. And as silly my that sounds to me, at least, one big taboo is like, do not say it what it is. Don't say cock. Don't say pussy. And it's just like, and I come with a lot of judgment. Like as a European woman, when I moved to United States, I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, first of all, I can't do topless on the beaches because I'm gonna be arrested. So it's a big shift, right? Like I understand that now, but 14 years ago, that makes no sense to me. Like, why would you arrest me for it?
Mhm.
Like, I didn't hurt anybody. Like, what are you talking about, right? So yeah, I want to create a space to invite people where at least practice how to say the things that they really want to say, but they are afraid of saying it because they don't want to be punished, they don't want to hurt their partners, and so on and so on. So thank you for having this conversation with me.
Thank you. I love that we just pressed the button and had no idea what to expect. It's my favorite.
But you know what? It's exactly what I'm inviting people. The other day, I think, went out on the post. Because dating is like, a lot of people contact me about dating and whatever. Like, again, I will stop saying that I'm no expert, but I have been single for over 3 years, and I have been dating a lot of men, and I did learn a lot, and women and whatnot. And all I could say to it was like, go on a date, open, curious, go to have fun. Don't go on a date to find the one to marry the guy and have his children. Like, you putting a lot of pressure, you doing that to yourself before you even leave the house. So like, might as well don't go anywhere. If you're like, oh, same thing here. And I keep saying, like, you learn a tool, you apply it everywhere in your life. Same thing here. Like, I know you, I trust you, I know where our conversation goes. Might as well just hit the record button instead of obsessing. I don't know what the piece was, and let's have a conversation, because I know for a fact that our conversations are always good. And we're gonna say the things, and we're gonna say it from a place of like, just stop somebody in a track to say, okay, let me look at this perspective, and as always, if it's just one person that took one thing from our 1 hour conversation, that's amazing work. So thank you. Thank you for being here, for taking the time, and for loving me unconditionally and being my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
And this is where we landed. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure you leave me a review to let me know. For more bear experiences, please go to simonaspark.com/bear and follow us on Instagram at Simona Spark World. I can't wait to have you back. Until then, be bear, bold, authentic, radical, expressed. See you next time.